south.
Ahoy, Captain!
What is it now? See you friends?
No, we found these scallywags lurking around the ship. Shall we feed them to the sharks, me Captain?
Is that so? Well then.
Oh, at last, some action! Move, ye dirty landlubber! Let's see how great a wizard you be! Hey!
Wizards?
Hey! Yeah! Come on!
Oh! Belay your carousing! Did you just say wizard?
Aye, me Captain! They claim they be wizards!
Is that possible? The infamous wizards of...
What do you think?
Ross me home, quick! Get my pants! You stand there like a scamming scarecrow. Prepare supper for our guests. You go brush your teeth.
But we can't. I'm having to.
Whatever. You friends, I've been waiting for you for such a long time. I'm pleased to finally meet the infamous wizards of...
The wizards of...
Your timing couldn't have been more appropriate. For we, the Pirates of Confusion, have found this extraordinary treasure that we would like to share with you. You, the infamous wizards of...
The wizards are where, Captain?
It's just a rat. It's just a rat. I'm well aware that you have plenty of treasure yourselves. But perhaps there's something that you might find appealing in our treasure box. A mighty treasure box. A tiny treasure box. But as an old saying goes, size does not matter. So, without further ado, I would say, let's dive.
The wizards are where, Captain?
Hello everyone, certainly glad you could join me on this very special occasion. Why special? Well, you'll find out in the course of this video. For now, let's go back and take a look at the title we've created in the first part of this episode. I'm going to show you how to go from this to that. And that in a matter of 3 clicks. I call it the 1-inch punch of compositing. I know it's utterly ridiculous. But unlike Bruce Lee's 1-inch punch, this one everyone can do. After that, we are going to bring this further and create some more damage. So without further ado, let's get cracking. So I will zoom into our area of interest here, where we had the erode, dilate and the brightness contrast, where we used this texture to add details to this text. Now I invite you to count the clicks. And watch the magic happen. Bang! What do you think? Did you believe it was possible with just 3 clicks? Or do you think I was bluffing? Sometimes it is indeed like a magic trick. Once you know how it works, it becomes ridiculously simple. But come closer. Let's see what is actually going on here. Now the effect we have here is the result of this texture being eroded with the text altogether. And with that comes one challenge. Say we want to change the color later on the indentations. We wouldn't be able to do it without a dedicated mask. Now you might think, okay, we could perhaps just erode this texture in a very same fashion that we eroded the text, but as you can see, this will give you a different result. Now I want to show you how in a situation like that you can extract those details, those indentations from this text. For that we're gonna do some math. Now don't worry, it's not gonna be rocket science. All we need is a Boolean tool. We want to do a subtract or difference operation. Now that already implies that we need 2 things. A text with the indentations and a text without the indentations. A clean text, so to speak. Now I simply bypass this brightness contrast here, and now that we have those 2 texts, we can simply hook them into the Boolean. It doesn't matter which input you choose, and simply change the operation to, in my case, difference. Bang! I bring in the bitmap mask, set the channel to luminance, and then I crank this up a bit. Now I know that some folks always needs proof, so let me prove that this actually works by bringing in a color corrector, and I branch out from the displays and I view it. Let me activate the lookup table, bring the brightness up a little bit, and now I use the mask in the color corrector here, and I will bring down, and I will bring down the gain. And watch the magic happen. Now we have created sort of like holes. We can adjust the mask a little bit, make it a little bit more tight. And if we leave a little gap here, it would really look like we have some thickness. Sort of like this. Now, if you would enhance the effect of this being holes by adding some slight specularity in there or something happening in there, you could put some Easter eggs in there or some gold coins shimmering, all kinds of things you can do. And there's actually one more cool thing that you can try. This is, if you are like very adventurous. If I go into this erode dilate here and I sort of offset this a little bit, you see that we start getting a sort of like a burn effect, like something burned those holes in there. You can't, of course, go too far, otherwise we'll bring these top areas as well back, but there's always a way out there. It is always good to explore and try things out that don't seem to make sense in the first place, but you never know. We're always up for a surprise here, as you saw with the order of a node. So I will undo this for now, and I will get rid of this color corrector, and it would be wise to already go up here and grab a wireless construction, bring it down here, and hook our bitmap mask in there. And because we are thorough, we're gonna rename this to exactly extracted mask out. And here it's an in extract mask. Bang. Now, to make it easier to spot, you could say that all your masks have an underlay box of a specific color, and that way you will be able to spot them very easily later.
Now this is not merely a pretty method. Masks are essential for every compositor. A compositor without his masks is like a wizard without his magic wand. It's a fairy. A compositor without his masks is like a knight without his sword. A jiggle wiggle is like from the axe in Braveheart. The scene where he's like, whoa! And the axe is like, wee. Now I know where they got their props from. The 100 yen shop.
in Japan. A compositor without his sword is like a compositor without his masks is like a pirate without his dagger. Now let's say you want to add more details to those indentations that we just created. Let me show you how to go about and do that. Suppose we want to add more details to those indentations. Let me endow your skill set with another fantastic trick. Dark trick, so to speak. Just remember, all further details that you want to add should be after the erode dilate. Everything you do in front of the erode dilate will simply be crushed again and result in the very same effect we see here. So let me create a fast noise. And I will merge this on top of here, but here you gotta make a big decision. Do you want to add those details also to this indentations here, or will you separate those from those details here? For now, I will just put them here and I merge it on top. Now, bang, it will override everything. So let me adjust the noise a little bit. I hop over to the color and I change it to gradient. I make this very tight, has to be very tight. Otherwise, those cracks that we are creating here, as you see, will be way too soft. And for this black here, I will just put the alpha down to 0. We don't need that. Throw it overboard. Now you can already see we create this very nice cracks and damage effect. And you can also use the offset to create an animation, for example, grow animation. Now you see that the effect, however, is kind of overriding everything that we had before. To avoid that, go to the merge, go to the apply mode dropdown, and now you choose darken. Oh, everything gone. Don't worry. The reason why you don't see anything is simply because it's the darken mode, and that's how the darken mode functions. For example, if I go here, we have a solid white. Everything we have now is white. The black areas are transparent. So if I would bring the white down, you will start seeing slowly darkening the text. And the cool thing is, it does it in a very cool way. It sort of looks like it's eating up the text. Indeed, very dark. To explain to you what's going on here, I'll create a background and I replace the noise for now. And I make this background a mid-gray. Put this there, and I will now press V to activate the waveform. Make sure it's the waveform. Here it's not the waveform. And see that since the background is a solid color, it is represented as a very straight... Very straight? It is represented as a straight line. The text, however, if I bring this over, you can see that we have a representation here. Note that the highest value of the text lives around 30, a little bit above 30, while our background is above 40 somewhere. So currently, this background has no effect on this text. However, as soon as I enter the values of the text on the left, zoom in for you, notice how as soon as I get into the same values, it will darken those values. However, notice that it won't affect values that are below the 20 here, for example. It will leave them. This will result in having this eat up look. Now, background looks boring, so let's just put in our noise again. We don't need the waveform, so I'll just throw it overboard. So again here, now we can adjust the noise. We can maybe invert it. This also looks very nice. But notice one thing. At some areas we get straight lines, straight ugly lines. We don't want them. Now the way how you can fix that is simply by copying this fast noise and then add a brightness contrast. And now we use the noise as a mask in here. Of course we want to change the noise. So I change the CV and perhaps I make it a normal noise and I go over to the color tab and let's see what's going on here. So I will already display the displays and now I bring down the gain and see what happens. It's still straight, okay, but that's because we need to adjust the noise a little bit more, make it not so tight so that it affects more of the areas, something like this. And I bring it more down and maybe even the scale a little bit higher. Ooh, now that is interesting. So now we're creating some secondary damage on a different layer, sort of. Yeah, this looks very nice. It's really like some serious damage going on here. Beautiful. Now if we take another close look at our normal map, see that the normal map is not as sharp as we want it to be. You know, we want our dagger to be as sharp as possible. One way is first go to the create bump map, and remember we set the filter size to 5. Now just set it to 3 and the effect will become a little softer or a little weaker, but it becomes a little sharper. Now it's still not sharp enough for my taste, so what we can do now is we can use a sharpen or unsharp effect. However, the way the sharpen and the unsharp works is they create a dark outline versus a bright outline, which then creates contrast on your edges, which then makes it look like it's sharper. So it's basically an illusion. The problem is that we don't like the dark line in here. So what we can use is something very similar, which is the Laplacian filter. So I set this filter to Laplacian, and you can see now we get those nice outlines, or edge detection I should say, but it doesn't create the dark outline as the filter as the sharpen does. So, and if I merge this over here, I only merge it on top. I don't do any operation. If I simply merge it on top, we will get this result here. Now this filter creates negative values, so it might be a good idea to use a brightness contrast and clip the blacks. Let's see how this looks on our displaced. You can see that this really makes the effect become sharper. Very nice.
Now that we've created this swell looking damage effect, we want to bring this a little further. And we do so by creating growing cracks, so to speak, using Fusion's particle system. Saucy indeed. But before we do so, we need to go further downstream and see if everything is still in order.
Of course, if we go down now, displays, the first node will be the brightness contrast, where we use the 9094 edges, and you can see that they now sort of, yeah, they have the scurvy. What I had here was a construction of 2 filters, and I simply delete the second one, which was set to Laplacian. So I simply delete this one and it gets a little better, but there's all kinds of weird stuff going on in here. So first of all, the lines for the details are way too prominent. And then we have some weird outlines going on here. Now let's fix those outlines first. Those outlines happen because remember where we merged the noise on top of our text? We merged it, but we also affected the alpha. So if I press A, you will see that the noise is now also affecting the alpha. And to avoid that, simply select the merge and go over here and uncheck the alpha. And this will fix the problem. As you can see here now, the issues around the edges disappeared. And this was because we passed on the bump map to those filters here. So, but now we have the problem that the lines on the details are way too strong. To get rid of these, we need to separate the details from the rest of it. And we do that by simply creating another create bump map, and we simply branch out from the erode, which will give us this. And what we do now is, here where we have our branch out from the normal, or bump map, here I should say, we simply merge this on top, and we do a simple blend. So as soon as I bring this a little bit back, you can see that we can get some of the details back. We don't want too many of them, so sort of like this. But now look what happened. We get the same outlines again, and it's the same issue again here. With the merge, we simply uncheck the alpha, and bang, everything is splendid. Now, of course, we have to make a decision here. Is this effect too strong? So let's dial this back a little bit, because the damage effect is already pretty cool. So we don't want to overdo it. Maybe something like this. And let's continue further down. Then we get the variblur, and frankly, the variblur is destroying everything we did. So no, the variblur has its place. This is good as it is. So we continue, we cut the text out, and then we add the first shader and then the second one. And here we could probably say, maybe this one, let's just bring it back and bring it up a little bit. Now notice how our damages are almost invisible here. And to fix that, what we can do is use our mask from this one, but we can also create a mask for the damages here. I just want to demonstrate. So using this mask here, we can just go, for example, here, and I pop that mask in here and I use a brightness contrast now, and I will simply use that mask to darken our indentations, sort of like this. Now we still have the setting for the holes we wanted to make, something like this. Now, of course, it's up to you. I mean, you have to decide what kind of effect you want. So, for example, if I don't want to make the holes, I go back and I make this even tighter, very tight, like this, and go back there. Maybe don't make it too dark, maybe just like this, like a hint. If it's broken away, then usually it should actually be brighter. You know, it's like fresh broken or something. But for some reason I like it darker. And it would probably be necessary now to get a mask of those details as well. Also, we need the mask to get rid of the wavy bump we had, simply because it's broken away. So we don't have those, we don't want to have the wavy details in those broken parts. And we can simply use that mask and go to the place where we merged the wavy on top, which was here. And I will see what I can do here. So if I hook this in here, you see it's the other way around. So I simply go into the merge, into this cog here, and just apply mask inverted. And you will see we'll skip it now from the damaged areas. But again, we need to also create a mask for the other damages. Let's go further down and see if everything still works. The lookup table is on. It's very dark. Then we have the fast glow. Becomes very strong now because of the additional effects that we used. So we have to bring this down. Now, if we would think about it, a glow makes it kind of look noble. So since this is damaged, I'm not sure if we should actually remove the glow completely.
I like it, but what do you think?
Yeah, maybe let's leave it. And then we get our rim light, sort of, and all the rest of it. Now we'll just see how this looks at the end. Yeah, so our outlines are way too strong here. We would probably have to dial this way down. Actually, I didn't change the second brightness contrast. So this was the first one, and then later on, this one here, this bad boy. So I bring this way down. So this shader here, it creates a very strong highlights on the damaging effect. Now let's see if that was the result of our sharpening. Yeah, it was the result of the sharpening. So we would have to separate that as well if we don't want it to be like here. For example, I guess we can live without the extreme sharpness. So maybe just the filter set to 3, because I don't want to go overkill here for the sake of this tutorial. So let's see how this looks. Yeah, this looks much better. Look at this. Oh my god, this is beautiful.
Splendid. And now it is time to finally reveal why today is a special day. So come closer, my friend.
So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna go up here where I've prepared something, and without telling you too much, I will for now just rehook this into here, and you're gonna see some updates here. Bang!
Dear WSL, this video is dedicated to all of you, to the entire WSL community. Now, admittedly, I haven't been contributing much to the WSL community in the past, and I do feel a sense of regret. It is by means of this video that I would like to show my appreciation. I also feel obliged to thank you in the name of all Pirates of Confusion for the countless help that you have provided to not only me but also my fellow pirates. It is indeed very uplifting to see the Pirates of Confusion jumping back and forth between our ship and your ship,
Sort of like,
Hey guys, wanna hear something funny? We ain't got no rum left.
Oh, let's go to research. Let's show
like this. It's something I have never witnessed with other communities. I do think this is great. So, again, thank you very much, and I hope you will enjoy the rest of this video. Let's continue.
You can see the beauty of this is that everything still works very beautifully without even the need to do some adjustments. And we're going to continue from here. So let's add those cracks that I was talking about. Due to time constraints, we're not going to create this very saucy animation. So here, with this noise, all I'm going to do is I'm going to animate. I'm going to set a keyframe here at 0, and I'm going to animate this. So we're going to create this animation, and perhaps let's make one at maybe frame 60. Let's make 50, and here I'm going to make it grow, so something like this. Now I won't bother with the smooth tangents and whatnot. We don't have time for that. Now what I want to show you is the beauty of this, that now our extracted mask, we haven't extracted these one here, so perhaps I should do that because we want to use that for the particle emitter. So I'm gonna just quickly rebuild this with a time lapse to save time. So I had to do some rearranging here because it was very messy. And I've created the mask for the second texture, for the second details. We have these now and we have these. This one here is not animated, but this one, as you can see, it's an animated mask. That's the beauty of this. Now the mask will automatically update. Why that is so beautiful is because we can now go over here and start creating our particle system. So I bring in a P emitter and a P render. And what I want to do now is I want to say that this is our region map. So I will switch this to a bitmap and I use this image. And I'll make this a 2D particle system. And let's already see what's going on. To make this a little bit more visible, I switch the style to a blob. Blob, blob. And just make this big. Maybe even bigger. Let's say these are going to be the stone hits. We let little stones hit our We Suck Less egg. I don't know if it's an egg or a magic pill, you decide. Sort of like this here. So these particles will now update according to this mask here. And okay, so this is good already. Next, we're going to create a background and make this a 512 by 512, and I already pop in a polyline, and with that polyline we now create our cracks. I have to make this a white, and I'm just gonna go in very randomly and try to create a beautiful crack. Okay, a beautiful, we don't want ugly cracks, we only want beautiful ones. This one is too beautiful, it's too pretty, I need to make it ugly. Which one now? So one thing I want to be careful is that I want to keep the center point, and the reason for that being that I want to emit those cracks right where those stones hit. You will see what I mean by that in a minute. Let's actually put this over there, and now I'm going to go into this mask. I'm going to uncheck this solid, and I will make this a little bit thicker until we get this. I deactivate the display for the mask by hitting Ctrl K, and now we can beautifully adjust this sort of like this. So this is our first crack, and I remove here, right click, remove the polyline so I don't accidentally animate it. I will just copy this one, hook it in here, and now I bring back the gizmo again, and I will just simply rotate this. And now we adjust this a little bit to our liking. Sort of like this. Now you make a decision where you want this crack to happen. Now, usually in nature, the way I see it, the cracks will always split at the corners, something like this. And perhaps this one should pop out here. We're gonna waste a little points here, but that doesn't matter. And something like this. Something like this. Is that a beautiful crack or a beautiful crack? Now we want to make this appear to be growing, and we can simply fake that very easily by using another mask. So I hook this ellipse mask into the blue one, and in the bitmap here I will simply choose multiply. Now it will multiply everything that was black in this mask on top of it, and you can see now we can easily fake a growing effect very beautifully. So I right click here at the height and I link this to the width. Now I arm the width, and now we can animate the width only. And I would do that at frame 0. I will arm this, and now let's play this about. The crack should appear like rather quick, so perhaps 8 frames, make it grow like that. And we would have to go into the spline edit and make an ease in, something like that, you know. But we don't have time for that. Okay, so what I'm doing here now is I increase the soft edge of the circle to make the tips appear to be a little bit more spiky. That gives a better nicer impression of cracks. If you want, you could also animate the thickness of the border. For example, if you want to make the grow animation of the cracks appear much more realistic, you could animate this as well, like something like that, you know, a little bit like that. Not exactly, but so you could make like this, and we could add this, make another crack, you know. And if you ask why, then just because we can. Okay, something like this. We got a lot of cracks going on, and perhaps we make these not right at the center. Maybe here. Maybe this one lives here. He wants to live a little bit in the suburbs, not exactly in the center of the action. Sometimes that is too distractive, not healthy enough. Now, of course, this fades out quite a lot. So we can try to bring this out a little bit more, something like that. Now this fella here doesn't get enough. We'll fix that very easily. And we could bring in one more, again, just because we can, right? We bring this over here. And sometimes you need to just get rid of some of these fellas. Yeah, now we got a lovely crack here. But again, gotta make a decision, where do they fade out? And we got our crack here. And I guess for some reason, smaller again. Did I accidentally animate this? Oh, I think I made another key right there. Yeah, that should do. And so what do we do with this here? Now I thought I want to have those right at those points centers. And I thought perhaps I can use a P-spawn to do that, right? So the first thing I do is I'm going to reduce the points to the particles, I should say, to 1. And now I'm going to set the spawn sprite to bitmap. I'm going to hook that right in there. And let's see what happens. So you can see, I hope you can, if we make this a little bigger, we get our cracks right there. But right now it looks a little dodgy. So first of all, we have way too many. Also, one more thing, and this is where I kind of gave up on the P-spawn. Now here in the rotation, I wanted to use the Z variant, and it seems that it has a scurvy in this Fusion version. It doesn't affect the variants. So yeah, this basically destroys the whole thing. And there's also another reason why I don't want to use the P-spawn, and that is actually even more important. Let's say I want to have those dots actually isolated as well. So one isolated and one with this. So to make them isolated, I would probably go down here and I would copy these, and then we play this through. You can't see it, but if you see it, you see that the points are not the same position anymore. So if I deactivate the spawn, you see that indeed they are at the same position. So that was one reason why I didn't use that. So I kicked that right off the ship, and what I did instead was using another stream. This time I hook in our cracks, and I will rearrange these vertically now because it just makes more sense. So interestingly, don't know what I'm doing here. We get our monster cracks. And this time in the particle emitter, if we use the Z variants, it works beautifully as well. Okay, now we're gonna bring this down and look at these beautiful cracks. Now, one important thing is we have created the animation around the first 8 frames, and at the moment, because this style is set to animate over time, it will simply animate the very first particle that it creates. It will animate it, and then the animation will stop for the rest of the other particles. So you can see they are not growing anymore. Only the first one grows. Now, if you want to change that, you set this to particle age. Okay, and now you can, oh, I couldn't even finish that sentence. You can see how beautiful this looks with such a simple method. I mean, I'm not doing voodoo here. We save the voodoo for later, you know, once we open the first rum bottle. Okay, so now to double check, let's just merge these together and bang. See, now those cracks are growing right at the stone heads. Beautiful. Now we could decide on the timing a little bit, you know, but you get the picture, and we continue here slowly, quickly, I should say. And now what we want to do is we want to build this into our construction here. So perhaps after here, we just bring in a brightness contrast, and now it's gonna be a little tight here. So again, forgive me for not tidying up right now, but we don't have time for that. We could create a wireless node for this as well, but you know. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna use this brightness contrast, and I bring this down. You can see here these cracks appear slowly, and let's see how this looks in the bump. Sort of like this. What if we play now? And you can see those bumps now appear only where the cracks happen. Now, ideally, the head should be before the cracks, you know, but what can you do? What can you do? Yeah, also the texture now is just continuously animated, which doesn't really look like impact. You could add a step animation to it. It would enhance it a little bit. But if you want to do this properly, you know, that would actually take a lot of more time. So let's go to the displays and see how this looks. Activate the lookup table again. Long click on here to get viewport brightness back. But you can see how this actually now enhances the damage effect quite a bit. I'm gonna make those bigger. And of course, one thing that we want to do is after the displays, we want to go in here and make those cracks darker. We do that with the very same mask. Go in here and make it darker so they pop out a little bit more. Then the vari blur destroys everything we just did. We could do this again, you know, just because we can. Sort of like this. Oh, look how awesome this looks. I really love this damage effect.
It is indeed funny how I'm more excited about that effect than the cracks effect itself.
And so once we go into the shader, you can see that it even gets a little bit more realistic here with the shadow and highlights in there. But look how beautiful this damaging look. I mean,
so to wrap this up, I will hop into a time lapse again, and I would add particles which I have prepared, which you find in the underlay boxes inside the comp. You might also notice that I have created a separate mask for the egg. Now, I leave it up to you whether it's in We Suck Less egg or a We Suck Less magic pill, but I certainly invite you to create your own We Suck Less egg. That would be interesting. Furthermore, I also used the extracted noise mask, remember, to drive the particle systems. Let's check it out. My dear fellow pirates and wizards, I hope that you had a great time, and I want to use this opportunity to wish you happy holidays and a blessed new year. And with that said, all the best, and hopefully see you next year.